So the context of my experiment was Music Midtown, which is a festival that happens in Piedmont Park in Midtown Atlanta. And the norm that I violated is the unspoken rule that people who have been waiting for the longest time deserve and are allowed to not only claim but keep the spots closest to the stage, which are considered the best spots. It's a social rule because it's an idea that limits mobility within the crowd through negative sanctions for those who are trying to move around and advance to better spots. And it sets expectations for that the best spots are worth waiting for. In the particular social setting that I was in, getting the best spots usually involves waiting for hours, and so there's the expectation that because people have put in that much effort, the spots have been earned. And so it's seen as unfair at least, for another person to try to take the spot. So the norm I violated took place in a field near one of the stages. There were about 100 people amassed, and they were mostly white young people my age. And so how I violated the norm was that I would push from the back of the crowd to the front in a clear attempt to position myself near the front with those who had been waiting, but I hadn't been waiting, so I hadn't earned the spot. And so my action was a relatively common occurrence at concerts, and so most people would have had a good idea of how to react. So my friend and I linked arms, and I was at the front, and we were stronger together so we could push further into the crowd. So we started pushing, and I felt uncomfortable even before people started reacting, because I knew I was doing something that was contradicting social norms, and I was anticipating those negative sanctions. So the result of all of this was that one woman really went out of her way to turn her head and glare at me for a few seconds, which typically people don't do because maintaining eye contact with strangers for that long is frowned upon. And then another lady said no and turned around and then pushed her back into mine repeatedly. So both of these were clear examples of negative sanctions brought on by the violation of social norms, and I felt really uncomfortable, exposed, and I felt bad because the clear, dirty looks were the disapproval associated with those negative sanctions. Most of us, including myself, follow norms subconsciously, and so the sanctions from two different people really piled up and made me feel even more hurt. And in the context of my situation, with so many people in such a crowded space, it makes respect for each person even more important because people get aggravated easily in close quarters. And really the only difficulty I encountered was moving through the crowd.